The Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you by our proud sponsors, Rams on Demand, SeatGiant, Throwback Joe, and now our new sponsor, Kayvon Webster's new LA food truck, VYBE 305, from South Beach to Sunset. Hashtag catch a vibe. For more information, check out vibe305.com today. Now enjoy the show.
35-30. Robert Woods, first down 20. 10-5. Touchdown. LA.
It's a blinding light underneath the dirt down.
So it's Goff who keeps it. And Goff goes crashing into the end zone.
6th Street Bridge.
Aaron Donald almost beat the football there and comes away with his third sack of the afternoon. Not immediately in sack. Corey Littleton, have yourself a day.
When will you save?
Todd Gurley, 20, 10. Gurley for MVP. Touchdown LA. And he gets gobbled up. Savage has to eat it as Michael Brockers picks up the sack.
It's picks. Nicole Roby coming.
He's decked by Eden Todd.
Touchdown! Brandon Cooks! Incredible!
For the first time since 2003, the Rams are NFC West champions.
What is up, guys? It's your host, Jake Ellenbogen. I'm back to bring you your preview for the Rams-Vikings Thursday Night Football game. I have an awesome show planned for you guys today. I'm going to be discussing the game, breaking it down, throwing some predictions out there, and coming up later on the show, number 3, the third time Kyle Sloter, Minnesota Vikings backup quarterback Kyle Sloter, is going to be on this podcast. Had him earlier last year when the Rams played the Vikings, and had him before the season started, before the draft season started, as a pre-draft prospect. He's a friend of the podcast, and I'm really happy to have him on. I really appreciate him taking the time. So that'll be coming up later on the show. He's going to talk a little bit about the Vikings this year as opposed to last year, the quarterback shuffle that went on this offseason, including Kirk Cousins, and the recent tie between the Vikings and the Packers, and of course, the game against the Rams. So definitely looking forward to that. It's going to be a great show, and I hope you guys enjoy. But without further ado, we do have a lot to cover. The Rams and the Vikings have come out with their injury reports since they're playing Thursday. This is going to pretty much be it. This is going to decide a lot. Looking at the Rams, you have outside linebacker Dominic Easley, who suffered a knee injury. He is questionable. Marcus Peters, cornerback, he actually ended up suffering an injury that was a lot better than many thought. It looks like he is going to be a game-time decision, and there's a really good chance he ends up playing, which is crazy, but Sean McVay seems pretty confident that he might end up playing. Inside linebacker Mark Barron, he's had a rough time coming back from an ankle injury, and his status is going to be doubtful in this one. I don't expect him to play. I don't know if he's going to play this year. I mean, this is a serious injury. It's bothered him all year. I'm sure at some point he'll get healthy, but this is definitely lingering longer than the Rams anticipated, and they might have to throw him on injured reserve. Guys that have not been thrown on injured reserve but are ruled out include Greg Zuerlein, the kicker, obviously, for the Rams. Sam Ficken is going to take over the duties there. And then you have JoJo Natson, who is out with a broken hand. Sean McVay surprised us all when he said that Natson is likely to play next week against Seattle. JoJo Natson will be replaced in the kickoff game by Blake Countess, the defensive back. And in the punt return game, you're going to be seeing a lot of Cooper Kupp. So, and hopefully a lot, because that would mean the Rams are getting the Vikings to punt a lot. So that is the Rams side of it. The Vikings side, you have Dalvin Cook, who is questionable. He's the star up-and-coming running back for the Minnesota Vikings. He left last season early on after starting off great with a torn ACL. Missed last week's game. I would imagine he's going to play. He's a huge focal point of this offense. They looked lost without him against Buffalo, so I would imagine he's going to play. He is questionable, though. Tom Johnson, the newly signed Tom Johnson, or rather the returning Tom Johnson, who was signed to the roster after the Seattle Seahawks cut him, he is questionable. Riley Reif, the offensive tackle, is going to be questionable in this game. Everson Griffin, thoughts out to him, defensive end. He is going through some mental issues as of right now. He is going to be out for this one. And cornerback Marcus Sherrills, who is mostly known as the main return man, he's going to be out. Replacing him will be rookie cornerback sensation Mike Hughes. So that does it for the injuries. Now moving on. We look at this, and the Rams are coming into this game 3-0. The Vikings are coming into this game 1-1-1. So it's a weird-looking thing there. Kyle Sloter's going to talk in a little bit of detail about the tie. It's one of those things that really no team wants. It's better than a loss, but it still feels like a loss. And last week, the Vikings really suffered a loss. They lost big time to the Buffalo Bills. It was quite the game for Josh Allen, the rookie quarterback out of Wyoming. It was quite the game for the pass rush of Buffalo. Guys like Matt Milano, Lorenzo Alexander, Kyle Williams, Jerry Hughes, guys that were all over. I mean, they were really getting a lot of pressure. It was a great game played by Tremaine Edmonds, the rookie out of Virginia Tech. The Vikings didn't look like they came to play in that game, and that was at home. So it is, it was a tough game for the Vikings, and now they're coming to LA on a short week, and they have to be prepared, get with the time change and everything. As Kyle mentions earlier in this podcast, the Vikings are getting there Tuesday morning, so, to get a little bit ahead of this, basically this time change. So that'll be that, but yeah, the Vikings are definitely going to come out as a different team, you have to imagine. I mean, anytime you lose, like getting blown out is going to leave a mark, but when you get blown out at home, that's a different story. Vikings are going to be prepared. I do think that they're going to, be a hard-fought contestant in this one. I do, however, like the Rams' chances, and here's why. Yes, the Rams are without Aqib Talib. He hit IR today. Aqib Talib is actually going to be replaced on the roster by Dominic Hatfield. I know many people are really worried. Dominic Hatfield, it's a revelation again. Hatfield played last year, and Adam Thielen ate him for lunch. But, the fact of the matter is Dominic Hatfield is in year 2. He's fully capable of playing in this league. And, last year they kind of threw him in the fire. I mean, both Rams cornerbacks go down, and it's kind of crazy that right before the Minnesota Vikings game, both Rams cornerbacks went down. But, this is going to be a hard-fought game, and, the Rams are going to need all 53, or rather all 47, whoever can, dress for the game. But, with that being said, I really like the Rams' chances because when you look at this offense, number one offense in efficiency this season, they have one 3-and-out all season. Pretty crazy in that regard. I know the flashy, the sexy, the really high-octane offense of Kansas City is the one that, catches eyes. It's the one that makes fantasy owners happy and all of that. But when you really look at it, if I could have any of the offenses between the two, I'm taking the Rams. And the reason is how methodical they are. They win with the short passing game, the intermediate passing game. They chip away with the run, and then they expose you to basically throw over the top with the play-action deep bomb, and, that's been coming at the form of, Cooper Kupp, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods. The thing that makes the Rams offense so crazy is that the offensive line now is turning into that top 5 offensive line. Jared Goff is turning into a top 10 quarterback. They have the best running back in football. And when you look at, the receiver group, I mean, they only have 3 guys that really need to be on the field. They're interchangeable. They can all play in the slot. They can all play outside. They can all run routes very well. They all have great hands. There's only been one drop charge to them this year, and that's been Brandon Cooks. So, when you have all of that and you have all that speed, I mean, Cooper Kupp's not as fast, but He's still, a lot of quickness there. When you have all of that and the interchangeability, it really makes the Rams unpredictable on offense, and they do so many different things. They've been using a lot of jet sweeps. They've been, bunch formation. Really what you're going to see them in is 11 personnel. They want all three receivers out there, and having Tyler Higbee as an inline tight end. I think what you're going to see in this game is Tyler Higbee. If this game's close, Higbee's going to have a serious role because you saw last week Higbee was able to play pretty well against the Chargers. He's had flashes in this season. It's early, but he hasn't really been called upon. But when he has, he's really made the most of his limited of opportunities. So Tyler Higbee in year 3 looks interesting. Definitely something to keep an eye on. And I think, in a game like this game could be close. I think the Rams are going to use Higbee. He's the X factor, as I would say the Minnesota Vikings have their X factor in the form of Kyle Rudolph. The Rams showed week 1 they were going to have a hard time, defending that pass against the tight end. Jared Cook went off in that game, had over 100 yards and 8 catches. He was a menace for that secondary, and he ate them up. So I would imagine, they basically hold week 2, they hold Arizona in check. Ricky Seals-Jones may have caught a couple passes, but he wasn't really much of a threat. And then week 3, Antonio Gates catches, a 40-yard pass, and Virgil Green doesn't really have any opportunity to get involved in the game itself. It was just a great defensive performance. There wasn't much to really come by. But this week, you have a Tyler Conklin from Central Michigan, a talented tight end who can play inline. You can stretch him out. I watched him in person at the Senior Bowl. He's a big guy. He's a great blocker. Really looking forward to him and seeing how well he progresses in the league. But you have him, and you also have Kyle Rudolph. And, Rudolph is the guy. He, comes from Notre Dame. He is a talent, and I think when you look at it, Rudolph has to be the X factor because, Stephon Diggs, the Rams actually did a nice job of holding Diggs to only, I believe it was below 40 yards last year of receiving yards in that game. It was all Thielen. And really, a lot of people forget, the game changed. It was 24-7 final. The game changed because the Rams were actually threatening to take the lead early on. Cooper Kupp fumbles at the goal line, the whole momentum shifts, and then the Rams lose their 2 starting cornerbacks, and it was just all downhill from there. Adam Thielen has eaten the Rams up, and he is going to be somebody that they have to look out for. If Marcus Peters is out there, if he plays, and he's healthy, say he's fully healthy, you get to place Marcus Peters on anybody, I'm placing him on Adam Thielen. I will let Stephon Diggs have his opportunities. I think Thielen is more of a threat because of his size. You really need the right guy on him because he's so big and he uses his body so well. He's such a great route runner. He's agile. He really can make a man miss in space. He did it last year against Dominic Hatfield. That's the guy I'm circling. But also, let's not forget Laquan Treadwell, the former first-round pick in the same draft. The Vikings got Stephon Diggs in the 5th round. Yes, he may not be the top guy. He may not even be the 2nd or 3rd option, but Laquan Treadwell is still a good receiver. He's still learning the ropes, but you've seen some ability lately. I think he eventually is going to break out. He is the 3rd guy. I think you'll have to watch out for him. The Rams are going to employ likely a 3 cornerback lineup of, you would have to imagine Sam Shields is the guy if Marcus Peters can't go. But if Marcus Peters can go, Marcus Peters, Sam Shields, Nickel Ruby-Coleman with Troy Hill as the 4th option, and then Dominic Hatfield is the emergency 5th option. But if Marcus Peters doesn't go, you're looking at Sam Shields, Nickel Ruby-Coleman, and then in the slot probably Troy Hill. So it'll definitely be interesting there. Dalvin Cook can definitely be a factor in this one. His ability to catch passes out of the backfield, I think, can really keep the Rams defense on their toes. But, with that all being said, the Rams defense, without even sacking the quarterback against Phillip Rivers, they played a hell of a game. The defensive line, they were just kicking butt all game long. I don't really know what the Chargers were doing, going back and watching the film, putting Virgil Green and having him do a chip block on Ndamukong Suh. It just literally did nothing. Suh ends up with a sack on the play as well. So, Ndamukong Suh's playing as good as he's ever played. Aaron Donald is waiting for a sack, but he has been dominant as well. Michael Brockers is playing well. John Franklin Myers, the rookie out of Stephen F. Austin, he is playing well. Samson Ebukam is playing well. Dominic Easley's playing well, although he is, again, questionable. We don't know if he'll end up playing. Really like the production the Rams have gotten out of Corey Littleton, and he absolutely was stout in coverage. Had about, I think it was 4 or 5 targets against him. He only allowed 1 catch for 4 yards from Antonio Gates. And the Rams have been getting some great production out of Marquis Christian in the box, so look out for him as well in the big dime packages. And then, you have to obviously look at, John Johnson III. And one thing that I think has gone unsaid, that is a serious matter, is the struggling play of LaMarcus Joyner. Now, I know, the Rams only have him 1 year, and many believe that he should be brought back. But, let's be real here. He's probably just a 1-year rental on the franchise tag, and he struggled. He has definitely struggled going back and watching the film. He's definitely going to have to pick up the pace. I really like the way Blake Countess is played, so he'll probably be used a little bit. It'll definitely be interesting the way the Rams approach it. They haven't really unloaded on the blitz yet. I don't know if Wade's waiting on that, but I think Cousins, last year Cousins got hit quite a bit. I remember in person, I watched Cousins play the Rams. It was the Rams Redskins. I was out in LA for the Rams Redskins game, and man, Cousins got hit so hard by Ogletree and Quinn. So I wonder if they'll bring the pressure in this one. I would have to imagine if they have to, they will. But with that being said, I think this is the game where the Rams defensive line, the Rams defense in general, is going to hit the quarterback. They're going to sack Kirk Cousins, I think, 6 times. I think this is going to be tough for Cousins. I watched the film against the Bills, and that wasn't a fluke. Kirk Cousins had no time to throw. The offensive line was putrid. Right now, the offensive line, left tackle is Riley Reif. Riley Reif is questionable, so if he doesn't play, that puts them in a really bad situation. They'll have to either play rookie right tackle Brian O'Neill out of Pitt, or they'll have to move Rashad Hill from right tackle to left tackle. Then they have Tom Compton, who's actually playing he's having a decent season, although he's never been one to really, he single-handedly putting Tom Compton in the Super Bowl, after Ryan Schrader went down for the Falcons and Patriots Super Bowl. That was kind of a death sentence. Tom Compton could not hold his own on the right. So that's how I remember Tom Compton. And he's, kicked in as a guard. I think that's probably his best fit. So he's played solid this year. Brett Jones, they got via trade from the Giants. I bet the Giants wish they didn't trade him after John Halapio went down with a broken leg. Mike Remmers, who is a former Ram in his own right. So this offensive line is putrid. It's just not very good. And the Bills had their way. Really, what it comes down to is the Bills shouldn't be able to get through the offensive line without creative blitzes and stunts and all of that. With their personnel. This isn't Aaron Donald. This isn't Ndamukong Suh. This isn't Michael Brockers. It will be, this upcoming game, but it's not that, with the Bills. The Bills, you have Matt Milano, you have Lorenzo Alexander, you have Kyle Williams, you have Jerry Hughes. These are, talented players in their own right. They're not elite. This isn't like the get-off of Ndamukong Suh. He beats Donald off the line most of the time. It's pretty crazy. But that's not the type of talent, and the Bills had their way with the Vikings. So if that's the one thing I said, coming into the season, if I'm the Vikings, I'm a little worried about their offensive line depth. It's going to be, rough sailing with this because they can't afford. If Riley Reef is out, this could be really bad for the Vikings. I mean, that's a serious injury, and it's going to matter. I mean, regardless of what people think, that's a big injury. So, the Rams, I really think they're going to get home and they're going to hit Cousins early and often. I think it's going to fluster Cousins a little bit. I think we'll end up throwing a pick or two. You're probably looking at a game where you see Cousins, try to go deep early on, not be able to because of how putrid the offensive line is, and you'll see them adjust. John DeFilippo, the offensive coordinator, is going to go right to the quick dump off game to Dalvin Cook, and he's going to say, all right, Rams, you're going to have to stop us, because they had a hard time doing that with Austin Eckler, and then eventually they made the adjustments and they were able to force a fumble on Eckler towards the end of the game, and the Rams did a nice job of bottling him up later on in the game, but at first it was kind of a sucker punch. So, the Vikings also have a really talented back in Latavius Murray, and an underrated guy that not really many people talk about, UDFA, out of Jacksonville State, and Rock Thomas. I like him a lot. I think, if the Vikings are going to unleash him, I think he could definitely do some damage for the Rams just because he's so shifty. He's great in space. He'd be a great guy to catch passes out of the backfield. But, obviously the biggest thing in here, it's not Cousins. It's not this offense. It's about, it is this offense. It's about the health of Dalvin Cook. It's about the health of Riley Reef. But now, without Everson Griffin, this is still a great defensive line. Don't get me wrong. Danielle Hunter is one of the best young edge rushers in the league, and he's still raw. So that's pretty crazy in its own right. But Linval Joseph, one of the best interior linemen. Sheldon Richardson, one of the best interior defensive linemen. Everson Griffin is out, so you're going to see a lot of Tayshawn Bauer. You're going to see a lot of Stephen Weatherly, and you might see some Jalen Holmes, the rookies. So Tom Johnson is also, as we mentioned earlier, he's questionable, and Jaleel Johnson, and that's really the defensive line. I think, Weatherly has played the most snaps for the Vikings after the starters, but Bauer is definitely a talented player, and he'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on. Moving on, looking at their defense, Anthony Barr obviously is a threat. He knocked out Aaron Rodgers last year and completely changed the course of a season, and his body weight thing on Aaron Rodgers has become, a penalty. So I guess he's really, making waves and changing everything. But one thing I do notice is on film, Anthony Barr did struggle quite a bit against Buffalo. There were times where it looked like he just didn't even want to play. I saw tweets about that. And then, when I saw the film, I was like, yeah, I definitely see that. Eric Kendricks is there, as well as Ben Gideon, and then Devontae Downs and Eric Wilson. Eric Wilson is one of the players that took a visit with the Rams, just a little tidbit there. And then, the secondary, it's great. Well, it looks great. Xavier Rhodes is one of the best corners in football. They have Mackenzie Alexander. They have Marcus Sherrills, who's going to be out. Holton Hill is I believe he was the UDFA out of Texas. Very talented player. Just kind of a knucklehead, I guess. But he's still finding his way, and if he does, he's going to be a really good player in this league. And then, obviously they have Trey Waynes, former first-round pick out of Michigan State. Mike Hughes, their first-round pick out of UCF. And then their safeties, they have Harrison Smith, who, for my money, he's the best safety in football. Andrew Sendejo, Jaron Kearse, and they added George Iloka as well as Anthony Harris. So they are pretty loaded in the back. I think you're going to see Harrison Smith lurking a little bit. He's going to try and get that interception early on Jared Goff. He's somebody that can roam. He can play in the box. And, he's definitely not somebody to take lightly. another thing not to take lightly is the fact that the Vikings actually ended up getting rid of Daniel Carlson, the rookie kicker, and they signed Dan Bailey. Now, the reason I bring that up is because the Rams actually have an issue in their own right where they lost Greg Zuerlein, as I mentioned earlier. Sam Ficken is going to be the kicker. Well, the question is, I mean, I don't know if he had already signed before then, but when Zuerlein went down, do you go with Sam Ficken, who you know, or do you go with the most accurate kicker in the history of the league, and Dan Bailey? And I guess we're going to, figure that out pretty soon. But, I have to say, I do think Sam Ficken, it was I understand the move, but, if Zuerlein's actually out for 6 weeks, I would have gone with Dan Bailey. This is going to be tough. If this is a close game, and you're putting all your chips on the table for Sam Ficken, I mean, that could be something. That's definitely something to watch. I don't think it's going to be as close, though. I have the Rams winning 38-24. I think when you look at what the Rams do just on offense, I just love what they're able to do on offense, but their defense is number 1 in the league right now. Their offense is number 3. It's going to be tough for the Vikings, and it sounds crazy. Vikings going 1-2, or sorry, 1-2-1, but that is the way it's trending. If the Rams come out and they're at home, it's a short week, so I think it benefits them in a way because they stay home. They don't have to worry about anything, and the Vikings are the one that has to travel. And crazy things happen on Thursday, but the last time the Rams played on Thursday, they dominated early on. The 49ers, they got off to a crazy lead, and then the 49ers had this miraculous comeback, and when it shouldn't have really even been a game, and then it came down to Aaron Donald sacking Brian Hoyer week 3 on the last play to end the game, 41-39. The Rams won. Sammy Watkins and Robert Woods had career days. So, that Robert Woods, Sammy Watkins, and Todd Gurley had 3 touchdowns. I think here's what you got to look at as far as the way you basically visualize this whole game going. Goff has to limit the turnovers, and this isn't to say Goff has turned the ball over, but he's thrown 2 picks. One was to Patrick Peterson. It was just a great play by Patrick Peterson in the Cardinals game. The one in week 3 last week to Derwin James, I didn't mind the decision. He needs to put more touch on that and try to lob it over the defender and into the waiting hands of Gerald Everett. I thought he had him if he did that, but instead he kind of tries to gun it in there and it gets picked off. So he's 6 for 2, so he has 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He just has to limit the turnovers. If he throws 1 pick, I don't think that's a backbreaker, but you want to see him limit the turnovers. I think that's one of the keys. It's a tough defense, and he's turning into one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, so you'd like to see him play that way, especially in prime time. With that being said, use Gurley if need be. And by that, look, the Rams-Raiders game, what were people saying at halftime? Give it to Gurley. Just give it to Gurley. Let Gurley take over. Well, Gurley ended up getting past the 20 carry mark or 20 touches mark, and he made the Rams, reap the benefits there. He had a great game. He can really be the closer here. If this game's close at all, I would have to imagine that the Rams are going to rely on the back of Todd Gurley. So I think, Sean McVay really needs to use him. And I'd like to see him use more out of the passing game as well as Malcolm Brown to kind of mix it all up, and hopefully some John Kelly as well for the first time this year. And then, I said earlier, be aware of Adam Thielen. He's the best receiver on the roster. I know, Stephon Diggs is the one that caught the Minneapolis Miracle, but, make no mistake, I think Adam Thielen is the best wide receiver on this roster. He is a very special talent. And then the X factor I mentioned earlier, Kyle Rudolph, somebody you have to keep, you have to keep tabs on. I mean, he's going to be an issue, especially for somebody like John Johnson that isn't the best cover guy in the world against tight ends. If guys get physical like that, he has a hard time. and you saw that against Jared Cook. And then, like I said, hit Cousins early and often. Fact of the matter is Cousins is a great quarterback, but when you give him time, he's going to turn into an unstoppable quarterback. If you don't give him time and you hit him in the mouth and you make him, flustered early on, I think that you're going to get a lot of what you saw, with the Bills last week. And, here's the thing. The Vikings are put in a position where if they're, they lose to the Rams, now they're 1-2-1, and people are going to start questioning them because they lost to the Bills and the Rams back to back. But, the fact of the matter is the Bills just played a really good team, and they beat them in every facet. It wasn't, I won't say that it was the Vikings, normal team, but the Bills outplayed the Vikings. I just thought it was a great game by the Bills, and the Vikings offensive line is a serious issue for Kirk Cousins, and he's going to be able to get away with it for a little bit, but these games against opponents like the Rams, the Eagles, the Packers, I just don't see him being able to get away with that, and it's going to hurt. So we'll see about that, but yeah, so I have 38-24. I have the Rams winning in this one. I think it's going to be a fun affair. I think you'll see a lot of usage of Brandon Cooks, somebody to really keep the defense on their toes. I think you'll see Xavier Rhodes shadow Cooks, and I think Cooks will get a touchdown. I think, Todd Gurley is he's capable of absolutely breaking out. I know he hates Thursday Night Football, but he's got a lot of success in Thursday Night Football, limited amount of time, and still a lot of success. I think you're looking at a 4-touchdown game for Jared Goff, and I think he throws a pick to a roaming Harrison Smith. I think it's going to be quite the fun game. I think you can put, pencil in a Tyler Higbee touchdown. I think that's going to happen. And, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think this is going to be a good game. I know 38-24 makes it sound like the Rams blow out the Vikings. I don't think they're going to blow them out, though. I think it's going to be 38-24, as in, maybe it's 31-24 late in the game, and Todd Gurley breaks a run to seal the deal, even though the game is pretty much with that, out of reach. The Rams are running out the clock, and he does something similar to what he did in the 49er game. Something like that. I definitely am looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun game, and I really hope you guys enjoy. I think this is what the Rams fans have been waiting for. Obviously, you're happy to get that primetime game against the Raiders, but at the same time, you kind of knew the Raiders after Khalil Mack weren't going to be the same. You kind of want to see the Rams play a team that's not. I mean, the Chargers. That was a game where you're like, okay, that validated the Rams, but you want to see them validated further. And playing the Vikings, I think, is definitely going to help. I know everyone wants to, go right up to the Rams-Chiefs game, but, there's a lot of football left to be played, and that's a ways away. So, one game at a time. This is a huge game for the Rams. They win. They go to 4-0, and they have a 10-day vacation, basically, to get ready for the Seattle Seahawks. And after Seattle, they have to get ready to go to Denver against the Broncos and Wade Phillips' return. So, a lot of crazy stuff coming up. As far as the Rams on the injury front, I talked about the injury report, but I mentioned Aqib Talib earlier. Ogbonnaya Okoronkwo came up today. Vinny Bonsier, friend of the podcast, mentioned it. Ogbonnaya Okoronkwo is on the PUP list until week 6. Now, once week 6 hits, the Rams can do whatever they want. They have 3 weeks to decide whether they want to put him on IR or they want to roster him to the active roster. Now, I would imagine if he's healthy, he's going to get rostered. I mean, he's somebody that can help. I wouldn't say right away. He still needs to get acclimated. He missed pretty much all of OTAs due to foot injury, but I'm really a fan of Okoronkwo. It goes back to his time at Oklahoma. It's definitely going to be fun to see him in action, as well as young guys develop like Trayvon Young and Justin Lawler. So we'll see on that end. But once again, I have 38-24 Rams over the Vikings. I think you're in for a good game, and I don't think people will have to be scoreboard watching. About the NFC West. Maybe even the NFC, because the Rams, I do think are the best team in football. There's been a lot of talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. My response to that, Kansas City Chiefs first game, they come off to a great start against the Chargers, look like they're going to blow them out, and then the offense kind of slows down a little bit, and then you see the defense get really exhausted, and they're already not that great of a defense, and they can't stop Phillip Rivers, and Keenan Allen is putting Orlando Scandrick on skates, and that thing, and then week 2, obviously you look at the Steelers game, and you look at how they go up 21-0, and then Pittsburgh scores 21 unanswered points right before the half, and they really make that a game, and a lot of that could have been prevented with a decent secondary, but they really kept the Steelers in it. It came down to 6 turnovers, and still the Steelers weren't in that game, so pretty crazy game there, and then you have to look at sorry, there wasn't 6 turnovers. There was the fumble by James Conner. There wasn't 6 turnovers, but yeah. So then you look at week 3, and then Kansas City. They play the 49ers, and they get off to a hot start again, and everything looks great, and then the offense kind of slows down a little bit, and then the 49ers, they score 3 unanswered scores, and then Jimmy Garoppolo goes down. It's like, okay, it wasn't that big of a deal, but in reality that game should have been a complete blowout, and the 49ers came back. This secondary is a legit issue, and if you want to rank the Chiefs ahead of the Rams as far as an offense, all the power to you, but I'm not willing to put them ahead of the Rams because I just don't think they're anywhere near the complete team. The Rams without Aqib Talib are a better secondary than the Chiefs, and I would argue even without Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib, the Rams with Sam Shields, Nickel Ruby-Coleman, Troy Hill, a healthy Kevin Peterson, and Dominic Hatfield, that might be just as good of a secondary as the Chiefs. When you have LaMarcus Joyner, Marquis Christian, Blake Countess, and John Johnson III in the back end of the secondary. So, it's definitely, there's 3 undefeated teams. You're going to see the Rams go up against the Vikings, obviously, in their quest to stay undefeated. That's at home. The Miami Dolphins, they're looking for their 4-0 start. They're going to Foxborough to play the Patriots, who just lost to Matt Patricia and the Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football. And then you are going to see Kansas City and Denver, and you're going to have to see Mahomes against a team that he beat last year in Week 17, but he's going to have some trouble. This Denver defense has a lot of talent on it. Von Miller, they had Bradley Chubb, Todd Davis in the middle, Shaquille Barrett, Shane Ray, and they're getting some really nice play out of Josie Jewell out of Iowa, and then in the back end of the secondary, Justin Simmons has turned into quite the talent out of Boston College, and then you have to look at Chris Harris Jr. and Isaac Yadam and Bradley Roby and Pac-Man Jones. They have a lot of talent out there, and Darian Stewart. So a lot of talent with Denver's defense, and obviously their offense. Case Keenum has a lot of weapons. Philip Lindsay has emerged as a big time UDFA. Royce Freeman out of Oregon, and then you have the receivers: Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas, Cortland Sutton, and of course Deshaun Hamilton. That's not even including their tight end Jake Butt, and their offensive line that's improved. So the Kansas City Chiefs, that's not going to be a cakewalk, and if the secondary blows that game, Case Keenum could lead the Broncos, and I think that would be tough. As mentioned earlier, we have Kyle Sloter coming on the podcast. Hope you guys enjoy. Welcome back, guys. I have another interview. He's a friend of the podcast. This is his 3rd time I am interviewing him. Kyle Sloter of the Minnesota Vikings. How's it going, man?
Pretty good, Jake. Thanks for having me. Love coming on. It's been a pleasure to get to know you.
Likewise, man. Likewise. I was just was listening to our old the first interview I did, and man, I think I've gotten a lot better since then. I said a lot of uhs the entire time, but no, I think it was really fun, like going back and listening to that. I mean, it's great now having an actual microphone and not calling you on my phone and using a call recorder app. But no, a lot of fun, and I thought you gave some awesome answers. I'll even, I'll start a little bit. One thing I thought was really funny was when we're going through the quarterbacks I thought you reminded me of. I said Romo, I said Derek Carr, I said Wentz. Right now I would say Aaron Rodgers, but that's neither here nor there. But last year I said Jimmy Garoppolo, and you said I've watched I watched 3 out of those 4, but Jimmy hasn't really had a chance to play. He'll be getting his chance really soon, and man, you hit the needle on the head there. I mean, it's just he's now the starting quarterback of the 49ers, so I thought that was funny. And then, just like listening to, and keep in mind, Kyle, this wasn't the one we did last year, right before the Rams and Vikings game.
Oh, yeah.
This is the one we did before the draft. So, this is some fun stuff going back and, looking at that story and everything. And I just re-released it to make sure it's in the, the podcast rotation. But, no, it just really cool stuff. And, one of the things that really stood out to me after a lot of the guys I interviewed, I don't think anyone has as crazy of a story as you. You had to be a receiver. I know I mentioned Ryan Tannehill in that podcast, but, let's be real here. Ryan Tannehill was a receiver for Texas A&M and became a starting quarterback at Texas A&M. You had to really go out of your way, and you opted to go the Northern Colorado route, the FCS route, so you didn't have to redshirt a year. And I thought that was a great move. Obviously, It looks like a spectacular move for you. But with that being said, you started off at Southern Miss. You were there with Mike Thomas, who was on the Rams. Now, it seems a little weird because you're there as a receiver, and I listened to the whole thing over again. Nick Mullins, Burbridge, the whole 9. You emerge as a Northern Colorado quarterback, but you're in the NFL. Let's just put that to rest. You are on a 53-man roster in the NFL, so clearly you have proven someone wrong. What, if anything, what has your coach or coaches from Southern Miss said to you since then?
Yeah, so going back to last year, we played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in week 3, and he's been the offensive coordinator for them for the last 3 years, and I got to go out there and shake his hand after the game dressed in, Minnesota Vikings gear and, as a backup quarterback for an NFL team, and got to shake his hand. And he came up to me, he told me that he was wrong first and foremost. That was something that kept me going through a lot of the hard times was, me dreaming of that moment. I'd be lying to you if I thought that, that moment would actually come at some point. When you're in Northern Colorado at a FCS school, it doesn't really feel like you're ever going to get to that point to be able to have that satisfaction. But, that was something that kept me going. And when he came up to me and shook my hand and told me that he was wrong, and he told me that, I should be proud of myself. I didn't have the traditional route that, most college players have. They go to a college for 4 or 5 years, have a great career, and then go straight onto the NFL. I had a little bit of adversity. I had some people tell me that I couldn't do it. He just told me that, that's something that a lot of players don't have the ability to say, is that they did it themselves. So I kind of paved my own path and took an unconventional route. And, like I've said before, it didn't fix everything in my mind. I think there's still a little bit of I try to keep that chip on my shoulder that he instilled in me. But he mended the relationship a good bit that day when he was able to swallow his pride and come up to me. I know that's probably hard to do. So I do respect him for that.
Yeah, no, that I thought that was that's really cool. That you were able to see him obviously in the NFL uniform. That's just really awesome. I'm really happy for you, quite frankly. Huge fan of yours. I mean,
I appreciate it.
I meant it when I said I'd be a fan for life. I just really impressed with your ability. I mean, you've gone through some stuff. Obviously, Denver. You easily could be there right now. You probably should be there right now. I think it's pretty obvious they made a mistake there, but you go through Southern Miss, Northern Colorado, Denver, Minnesota. You're 53 man. You're on the 53 man roster. They kept 4 quarterbacks last year because you were that good. That's serious.
Yeah.
Teams don't keep 4 quarterbacks, and then this year, all that turnover. At one point, I'm pretty sure you were the only quarterback on the roster.
Yep. Yep.
So, it's I'd say you've carved out a nice role. You're only 24. Yep. The sky's the limit, man. Obviously, Kirk Cousins isn't signed for 6 years. So.
Yeah. No, I don't know what the plan is. Obviously, that's not really it's not my job going in each day. I just try to get a little bit better. I know Kirk is only signed for 3 years, and I think that any quarterback's goal, whether you're behind a bona fide starter or a guy that a team could be willing to move on from. I think that any quarterback that's not playing in this league right now who's a backup, I think their goal should be to continue to progress, and then when their time is called, just go out there and make the most of it. I think that's how players that aren't necessarily first round picks or highly sought after free agents like Kirk Cousins was. I think that's how people really make it in this league and how they become starters. You look at a guy like Dak Prescott a couple of years ago. He was a preseason stud, and when Tony Romo was hurt, instead of them bringing in a veteran backup or a veteran to take the place for the meantime while Tony was getting healed up, Dak got the call, and he went out there and won 10 or 11 games in a row or whatever it was, and they played really well. And you look at it now, and he's still the starter. So a guy like that wasn't necessarily, he was drafted in the 4th or 5th round, whatever it was. A guy like that isn't necessarily supposed to be handed the keys, at least not that early in their career. Normally guys like that are drafted to be backups or whatever it is, or develop. But he was ready when his time was called, and he's a great example of, making the most of his opportunity and going on to be a great starter in this league. Case Keenum was one that waited a few more years than, he probably wanted to, but he finally got his big chance last year. And then I guess a couple years ago with the Rams. But, he was one that really made the most of his opportunity last year and, capitalized and turned that into a starting role with the Broncos and a big contract. So, that's really my goal, is to go into each and every week. Right now I'm the 3rd string guy. But just going each and every week, trying to get better, understand the playbook a little bit better, and if something happens along the lines down the road and, Kirk, needs a breather or something like that, I'm not going to wish anything bad on anybody, so I'm not even going to put it in the air. He needs a breather or shoelaces untied. I'm going to go out there and be ready. So, that's kind of where my mind's at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally understand that. I think, you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, it's a process. Everyone kind of goes through it. I mean, I know, Aaron Rodgers may never become the all-time leading passer, and the reason is because, he didn't start off starting. He was behind Brett Favre. But everyone, you all have one goal, and that's to win a Super Bowl and, be successful in the league, put your all into it. and not everyone takes the same path. And, Jared Goff, for instance, I mean, he was behind Case Keenum, and then he takes over after, he went 0-7 his rookie year, and, I mean, he hasn't looked back since. It's been impressive on his part. There are guys all over the league. I mean, it's pretty crazy. You just saw Baker Mayfield might be, the starter in Cleveland moving forward. And it was kind of like a freak injury to Tyrod Taylor. Like, that's all it takes. Kurt Warner is the biggest example. A meaningless preseason game, Rodney Harrison goes low, hits Trent Green in the knee, and he's out for the year, and now the Rams have to rally around Kurt Warner and play good football. So, it's sometimes that's just the way it is. But, with that being said, what's that quarterback room like? Because, last time we talked, Sam Bradford, Case Keenum, Teddy Bridgewater were all in that room with you. And now it's just Kirk Cousins and your former teammate, Trevor Siemian, who now joins the Vikings with you. So how is that whole thing, and is there, a big difference?
I mean, I think anytime that you rotate people, everybody's a little bit different, obviously, in the way they like to do things. Their characteristics and mannerisms and all those kinds of things. So anytime you bring somebody else new into the room, it changes the dynamic. And then you bring two people that are new into the room, it completely switches things up. So, it's different, but it's also, it's a very functional one. It's very, we're really good friends off the field. We, can joke around. We can be serious. It's really, there's a lot to like about our quarterback room. I think that we all mesh really well together. I think we all want to see each other succeed. I know that Trevor and myself, we want to see Kirk go out there and win the MVP. We want to go out there and win a Super Bowl. So we're pulling for each other each and every day. And then, when I go out there in preseason, the first two people to, greet me on the sideline after a big play or a scoring drive or something like that is Trevor and Kirk. So, everybody has everybody's back. It's something where a lot of different dynamics are brought to the table, and I'm lucky to be in a room with those two guys. Both of them have played a lot of football. Kirk is a guy that has been there and done that. He's trying to get his first Super Bowl, but he's been to the Pro Bowl. He's won playoff games. He's he's been a real leader for teams in the NFL, and I'm just really happy to have him in there as kind of a mentor. He's always willing to offer up advice. And Trevor is a guy that obviously a Northwestern guy, very smart by nature, knows what he's doing out there. He's been doing it for a long time himself, started games for the Broncos. He's had success in the league as well. So it's been really fun. I think this year is a little more organized just because we understand, everybody understands their role a little bit better. I think last year I was kind of the only one that understood my role, just in the sense that those three guys are guys that could start for any number of teams. I mean, you take Teddy, you take Sam, you take Case. I mean, Sam and Case are starting for teams. So I think that, those three guys, they've all started. They all wanted to start, which isn't a bad thing. I don't think that's a negative thing at all. I think you've got three really capable quarterbacks. But, this year everyone kind of knows their role. And I think that eases things a little bit. Trevor knows that he's the backup. I know that I'm the third string, and I know that Kirk is going to play each and every week because, that's what they brought him here to do. So I think everybody knows their role and has accepted it. For better or for worse, I think both rooms between last year and this year were incredible rooms to be a part of. But yeah, there's definitely some differences from last year to this year.
Yeah, I think it's really crazy how similar the Vikings and the Rams are. They made a lot of, both teams really made some reshuffles. I mean, you're talking about the Rams. They just signed the first big contract extension they made in their regime. They traded him, Alec Ogletree. They traded him like 5 months after he signed that deal, if even. So, that was huge. And then, they go out and they let, obviously they let Trumaine Johnson go, and they go out and they get Marcus Peters and, Aqib Talib and, Sam Shields, and then, Brandon Cooks to replace Sammy Watkins. So there's just so much shuffling and reshuffling and trading Robert Quinn and adding Ndamukong Suh. But then with the Vikings, it's like, you had Jerick McKinnon, who really, and I wish him the best because I know he's a good friend of yours. He really emerged, and that was one of the biggest things. Like, we were texting one day, and I was like, "Can you imagine how awesome this team would be with Dalvin healthy?" And you're like, "Man, it's true." But he's like, Jerick McKinnon, like, he's really had his chance, and he's really thrived off it. So, the best response that you could possibly give, obviously, and that team had a lot going for them. But obviously this year, you come in, it's another year, and I guess really the thing that shocked me, Kyle, was you didn't keep any of the three guys, with you. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that maybe Bridgewater would have been the guy to get signed, or maybe Keenum signs for a year. I really did not see Cousins until everyone said that Cousins was signing with the Vikings. But I mean, where were you in all of that? Did you expect like a big, reshuffling of the quarterback room?
I think anytime you have people's contracts up, it's very unlikely, especially at the same position, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to keep all three. So I kind of had in the back of my mind, and that played a big role in why I came to Minnesota in the first place and why I chose them in free agency after I was waived from the Broncos, is just because I looked at their quarterback situation. I was just like, man, they're going to have to make some decisions here in the future, and, hopefully I can be a part of them. So I kind of saw that coming from a little bit away, but I didn't expect them to – I expected them to sign, I think, just like everybody else, one of the three. And I think that each of them presented something different that the club liked. And, at the end of the day, it's really tough. I mean, obviously I don't get paid to make those decisions. So, I can't say neither here nor there, on what went into it. But, I've talked to them all and I wish them all the best. But, and when that was going on, I mean, I didn't know what the deal was with me. I mean, it shows a lot of the ownership to, I'm the only returning guy that, I think they do have a plan for me in the future. It's my second year with the team. I was an undrafted guy, so, there's not really, I don't really have, I don't know, I guess as much of a following as, first round draft picks and all those kinds of things. So, for them to keep a guy like me on, I think that it just goes to show that, they're not keeping me because of a draft status or anything like that. They're keeping me because they, see me in their future plans, and that I feel like I earned it. So, the Kirk Cousins thing, I hadn't heard anything about it either until it happened. Just because that's, when y'all find out, that's when we find out. So they don't tell us anything either. So, it was a surprise, but, it's turned out to be great for Minnesota. I'm happy that Kirk's here. He's become a great friend of mine. And like I said, I've wished all those other three guys the best. I'm always pulling for them. I talk to them all regularly. And I can't wait to see them succeed. And some of them are already succeeding with their teams. And Case's got the Broncos at 2-0 right now, and trying to go 3-0 this weekend. So they're all doing their own things, and they've moved on, and they're doing well. So I couldn't be happier for them.
Yeah, it's really cool to see how that all came together and everything. It's cool to hear that you're close with Kirk, and just again, like, the reshuffling was just it was crazy this year. And I would say the same with the Eagles as well. I mean, the Patriots do it every year, so it wasn't really much of a shock. But no, I think that's all that's pretty crazy. I also think it's pretty crazy that you guys just were involved in a tie, and and it just man, I don't even know. Like, have you tied before in any sport or like any type of at any level of football?
I don't recall tying in anything. I've played football for a long time, going back to my childhood years, and I don't know that we have ever tied. That might be my first one, at least that I can remember. And it's kind of a weird feeling. I mean, both teams leave, and no one really feels like everyone feels like they lost. So ties just feel like a loss. Obviously they're better than a loss. Hopefully it'll help us more than a loss down the road. But it was just kind of a weird feeling. But no, I don't think I've ever been involved in one.
Yeah, no, that was strange. I mean, we've now seen 2 ties. This is week 3, or rather week 4. We 2 ties in 4 weeks. To me,
yeah.
I mean, does the NFL need to explore the continuous sudden death overtime? I mean, I would almost ask you why they don't already do it now. It just doesn't really seem like a tie makes much sense.
Yeah, I don't know that a tie does make much sense. I think that's probably something that will be looked into if it's not already being looked into for next year. I think that the big issue for players and the guys that are out there say it themselves is that they start at a certain point. You start to worry about player safety because they've been out there for I think we had over 100 plays last game on offense, which your typical game. A lot of plays is typically around 80. So we had over 100, and you start worrying about player safety and all that kind of stuff, and people getting tired and cramping and fatigue, and it was a really, really hot day out there. So I think that's probably the reason for it. I would like to personally see it go to something maybe a little less taxing, like maybe after, if after one quarter of play everything's not, if it hasn't been settled quite yet, then to go to like a college style overtime where you start at the 25 and, that kind of thing. I feel like when you're not driving the entire field, it's not quite as taxing. So maybe something like that. I don't know. I feel like they do need to do something with it though.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Love the idea. Maybe just have like one overtime period where it's just straight up football, and then like you said, the college style, maybe in like the second overtime, and then call it if it's after that, like you can't. But I'm not really a huge fan of ties myself, and the thing that kind of contradicts what you said is the fact that really the NFL just had not the Vikings, the Dolphins, and I believe it was the Buccaneers. No, it was the Titans. The Dolphins and Titans played like an 8-hour game. It's like, I totally understand, weather delays and whatnot, but I mean, that they didn't get done with that till like almost 9. That game was a 1:00 game. So,
yeah, that's pretty absurd.
It almost seems like it would have been better off to postpone that. But, if they're going to do that, they might as well just have continuous overtime.
Yeah. I don't know. Definitely something that they need to look into, I feel like. Who knows? We'll see, I guess.
We definitely will. The last time I spoke with you on this show, it was before the Rams and Vikings game, and I was fairly confident it was going to be a close game. You guys had other plans, and it wasn't nearly as competitive as you talked it up to be, and I talked it up to be. So, how do you see this tilt going, this time around? I mean, obviously, there were some things that went down. I mean, you guys lost your starting quarterback in Case Keenum became the starter going into that game. I think it was right before with the Steelers game. But then, the Rams actually lost their 2 starting corners, had a UDFA on Adam Thielen, which just never goes well. Just a guy that really the Rams liked a lot, and he was, probably a practice squad guy, and then ends up, covering one of the best receivers in football.
Right.
Yeah, so, I mean, crazy game. You guys earned it, obviously. Now you go to the Coliseum, and it's Thursday night, and it's probably set to be the best Thursday night football game in quite a long time. How do you see this thing being?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be a challenging, hard-fought game on both sides. It's tough to say because I feel like when you look at the NFC, the two teams to me that stick out are the Vikings and the Rams, just because we didn't lose anybody, but we also added some pretty major players. So we've only gotten better over the last year, and Jared Goff being in his second year, I expect him to be better, even better in his third year. Everybody gets better with experience, and he was a great quarterback last year. Both teams don't have a ton of time to prepare. You're done with your game on Sunday, whatever time that gets done, and you almost immediately have to switch gears. You don't have time to sit down and rest. You've got to get back to the grindstone, and I know that's what we're doing. We're planning on doing here. We're leaving on Tuesday, so we're leaving a couple days early just to get out there and get acclimated to the time change and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I really expect it to be one of the tougher games on our schedule. I think that the Rams, they've got a real chance. I think you look at each year you look at the NFL, and I feel like everyone points out a couple of teams that could really go all the way, and I feel like that's typically, with a few exceptions, I feel like those teams are the ones that are fighting for a Super Bowl, and the Rams are definitely one that have the ability to win it all. So we're trying to we're not looking past the Bills by any means, but we're going to have to be on our stuff to go compete with the Rams, while also dealing with the time change and playing at their home stadium. So, it's going to be a really hard-fought game on both sides. I know that for sure.
Yeah, I think we're going to be in for a fun one, and there's obviously a ton of storylines. Anytime, even though they're new players and it's a new culture, I wouldn't say new culture. I mean, Sean kind of established that last year, but I look at it like, the Rams know they got blown out last year in a game that everyone was saying was going to be a close one. So that has to change something. But then when you have, the Kirk Cousins, Sean McVay relationship, that that goes into it. Zimmer's like the Rams killer. I don't think the Rams have beaten Zimmer. So there are a lot of different mini storylines in there. With that being said, what are your thoughts of this 2018 Los Angeles Rams team as opposed to the 2017 one that you faced last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're a really disciplined, well-coached team. You added guys like Aqib Talib, who's one of my friends, and then you got guys like Ndamukong Suh, who's been a great player in this league for a long time. So, I mean, and then you add guys like Brandon Cooks. So, I mean, it was a scary group last year. It's a scary group this year. So, you just got to go in there. We've got to be prepared, like I said, in the short amount of time that we do have to prepare. But no, it's going to be a really hard-fought game, and these are the two. I think these two teams are ones that we kind of know at the end of the season when we get together in the playoffs or whatever it is that we're kind of headed on a collision course. I feel like at some point down the road. So, and I think that a lot more people than just our two teams are looking at that and looking forward to those games. So it's going to be a really good game. It's going to be fun to be a part of. I can't wait to, watch the guys go out there and, give it everything they have. And, hopefully we end up on the winning side of it. But, it's definitely a team that we got our eye on, and we know that they're gunning for that first Super Bowl in Los Angeles.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a fun one. You mentioned Aqib Talib is one of your friends. Have you ever done like a jersey swap with anybody, like on the field? Anybody like that?
I haven't.
I feel like you should get Talib.
Yeah, that would probably be a good one. I I'm still kind of grounded in my ways. So they make us pay for those jerseys, obviously, when we give them away. So they're about $300. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, man. Yeah, I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to do it for, not to say that anybody in the NFL is just anybody, but, I would do it on a special occasion. I think Aqib Talib would probably be a pretty special one. So I don't think that'll ever change for me, no matter how much I make. I'm just $300 to me is still a lot of money. So I haven't done it quite yet. And I also haven't been asked that many times, as you can imagine, as the third string quarterback. It's not like everybody's going out of their way to grab my jersey. So, I'm sure I'll do it at some point in the future, but I haven't done it quite yet.
Hey, Kyle, it's their loss. Did you see that video that the NFL released on the jersey swaps, and they showed even like the best offensive lineman in the league, Joe Thomas, like he couldn't get anybody. He's like, I don't want an offensive lineman jersey. I'm like, that's Joe Thomas. That's one of the best offensive linemen in the history of the sport.
Right.
I just yeah, no, it is funny. I thought of that because you mentioned Talib, but yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. It's always a pleasure. I'm pretty sure we could talk for hours. Just sometimes you have a conversation with somebody and you just can keep going. And I had that vibe the first time I spoke with you back when you were coming out of Northern Colorado and you were vying to get drafted. So it's always a pleasure, yeah. Kyle. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you having me on again.
Absolutely, man. And also, I have to congratulate you. That preseason performance was fantastic. I mean, I don't think people talk enough about you, but I was definitely trying to get the name out there, and I did have some people that were saying that the Rams should trade for you. So you have a little bit of a following over here. So.
There you go. Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you putting my name out there a little bit for me.
Absolutely. So, eventually it'll be the starting quarterback, Kyle Sloter. But until then, I know you're going to stay humble, and you're on a winning team. You're on a great team. Yep. So it should be a fun ride.
Oh, it definitely is. Yep. I'm enjoying every moment. It's a dream every single day.
It has to be. I mean, just really cool stuff. But no, thank you so much again, Kyle, and we'll stay in touch as usual.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate it, Jake. You have a good one.
You too. Take care, Kyle.
All right, man.
All right, guys. So that's going to do it for Jake Ellenbogen. This has been the Downtown Rams podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, I thank Kyle Sloter for taking the time out of his busy schedule to come on my show for the third time. And I wish him the best of luck, just not the Vikings, because unfortunately I am a Rams fan. This is a Rams podcast, and I want the Rams to beat the Vikings. After that, as long as it doesn't impede with the Rams' success, I wish him and his team nothing but. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy the game. Hey, before you go, don't forget to check out the brand new Downtown Rams podcast. It's not this one. It's not the flagship show, but it is the new Downtown Rams podcast featuring Matt Herrera and Brian Joannou, and it is called Ramblin' On. So be sure to check that out and let us know what you think.